All right, good morning, everybody. It's day 3 of TechCon 2025. I hope you've been enjoying the sessions up to now. Remember that if you go back to the session catalog, you can access the materials and you'll be able to view the videos as well over the past couple of days. And just a reminder, there's an office hours later today where you can ask questions. If you can't think of any to ask right now, then think during the day and come back later on and ask some questions. And on top of that, there's a tech community. We'll put the link in later on, where you can also ask questions and look at blogs and interact with the that you see over the past couple of days. All right, so to get started, I'm joined today by Matt Roberts, who's going to speak about basically AI and integration and how they go together. There's been a lot of talk over AI for the past couple of years, a lot of thought about what's possible, great visions for the future. But let's be honest, this is a tech conference. We're practical people. We want to see, okay, what's the reality? What can you really do with it? What can you do in terms of integration? Why is it important for integration? And what are the real benefits for you? So Matt, I'll hand over to you now and let's get into it.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Frank. Yeah, share my screen. You can see that okay?
Yep.
Looks good. Awesome. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, folks. Thank you for joining wherever you are in the world. I appreciate you taking the time out. So as Frank says, my name is Matt Roberts. So I'm the Distinguished Engineer and CTO for the IBM Integration portfolio. So I'm covering today a kind of broad view across the whole of the integration estate in terms of how do we empower integration outcomes with AI. So I'm going to split this into a few different sections. I'll talk kind of initially about our kind of high-level perspective from IBM on what AI and integration means, and that actually breaks down into two themes. The first of which is about how integration enables AI. So I'll talk about that in over the course of 5-10 minutes or so. And then the main kind of content for the deck here is, as Frank was saying, is to show you what's real. Like, all the things that I'm talking about today exist. They are readily available in the products that we present to you today. I was saying as we were in the green room earlier, so I was presenting a similar version of this deck in an event in Utrecht in the Netherlands yesterday, and one of the questions from the audience was, so how much is actually true? Like, all the stuff we're talking about today is GA product features that you can pick up and make use of. There's a whole bunch of other kind of coming soon stuff that we're excited to talk to you about the next time we do these sorts of sessions. But for today, we're focusing on the things that are actually on the truck, as it were. So in terms of our IBM perspective on AI and integration, so it breaks down into two aspects. Looking first at the kind of top half of the circle here, integration, we assert, is a critical factor for you as a customer, you as a user, being successful in your own AI projects. So think of this as your executive team come to you, everyone's excited about AI, like what is it we can do with AI, like what benefits can we get? And we see lots of customers driving their own AI-led projects in their particular business domain. The key message here, and I'll kind of go into some more detail, is actually integration is the critical enabler, the critical factor for those success of your own AI projects. And then the bottom half of the circle is about how we as IBM are delivering features across the integration portfolio that are powered by AI to enable you to achieve more powerful and differentiating results, as it says here. And as I'll talk about in more detail as we go through, like we see AI delivering that benefit across the whole of the user spectrum. So developers, testers, SRE, operations, business style people. And the focus is really around how do we enable you as users to be more effective. So you'll see lots of examples where AI is helping to perform either the manual or the time-consuming work, so that you as a human being can focus your time and effort on the things that are higher value, more differentiating, more unknown perhaps in terms of what are you trying to achieve for the business outcomes. And another conversation that we were having in the Netherlands yesterday was about this aspect that AI is really kind of supporting and enhancing innovation led by humans. So my personal opinion, there are differing perspectives in the industry certainly, but my personal opinion is we're not at the point yet where AI is replacing human beings. What we are really in the position of is helping with that acceleration and simplifying, enabling people to be more successful, either in the time that they have available or perhaps with less skill than they might otherwise need. So it's that really supportive aspect of AI to enable the human developers to be more successful. So if I drill into that kind of first theme, the integration enabling AI, so as you look to deliver your own AI projects, think about what's going on in your business today, the things you're being asked to do or your colleagues are asked to do. Integration is the critical factor or the critical enabler for basically any kind of credible AI project. 3 examples that I'll talk through in kind of like a slide each. Firstly, around requiring access to enterprise systems, like how do we get access to data? Secondly, around using, or if you're creating your own AI models, where are you going to get the training data for those things? And then thirdly, as an enablement point for AI, the kind of flow of integration or flow of data and transactions through integration gives you that chance to hook into other pieces of AI. So first of those themes, we think about an example AI project. So in this case, imagine I'm a delivery company. I'd like to put a chat bot on my website that the user can ask me questions to. So the thing the user is trying to ask, or one of the things the user might ask here is, when will my package arrive? And that's that understanding of natural language is something that AI models are really great at. So things like what's next to AI, for example, they can understand that there is a thing called a package. There is a me, like me as an authenticated user, effectively. This idea of arrival, so to kind of understand like delivery timeline or whatever it turns out to be. So that natural language processing is something that large language models are very good at. However, to successfully implement that scenario, it's not enough to be able to understand the question. You need to be able to answer the question, and that's where integration technologies come in. So things like IBM App Connect, reaching into those backend systems, being able to know that in order to answer this type of question, I need to go to a DB2 database or to Salesforce or to whatever the kind of fulfillment system is in the backend. That technical handover between understanding the question and being able to answer the question is where integration plays a key role. And then on the kind of flip side of that, obviously we want to then answer the human user or the person on the website back in natural language, and that's again where kind of transition back from the technical response that you would get from App Connect, for example, back into a human understandable sentence. It will be delivered by 2 p.m. on Wednesday. That's where again what's next to AI and similar services are there to help present that kind of natural language response that the user is expecting to consume. So looking at the kind of second of the themes under this kind of aspect, if you as an enterprise or you as a customer are looking to train your own AI models or build your own AI models, the question with AI models is always about, well, where do I get my training data from? Models are great, but they need to understand what normal looks like, what shape of your transactions are, what does your business look like as it flows. And systems like IBM MQ and IBM Event Streams are the backbone of kind of transmission of data through your enterprise estate. So they're great sources of this data. And in fact, both MQ and Event Streams have capabilities that lets you take kind of a fork, a copy of that data away from your mainline business transaction processing and actually use that for the training of AI models if you like to. So in the case of IBM MQ, this is what we call the streaming queues functionality. So you can literally configure some setup on your MQ queue through which your business messages are flowing, and then we'll send a copy of that message to a secondary queue, which you can then use for consuming and doing the training of the AI models. And importantly, that's kind of transparent to the kind of main business flow. So you're not affecting that business processing, but you are able to extract the kind of understanding of what regular looks like and what the transaction patterns are through your enterprise in order to input that into AI models. And similarly with IBM Event Streams, this is IBM supported version of Apache Kafka. Very straightforward, Kafka being a publish subscribe technology, one-to-many style patterns. Very easy to create an additional subscriber to that topic, which has the events flowing through it, so that you can take a feed of that and use that in this case for training of AI models. And then the third example, as I say, is about using integration as that enablement point. Like, how do I inject AI into my overall transaction processing? So in this case, I imagine I'm what particular business scenario I'm looking to implement is, when a new case is raised in Salesforce, expedite the processing to send an alert via Slack instead of email if the tone of the case is angry, so that it can be responded to urgently. So here, that kind of call out to what's next to do sentiment analysis it is something which is very hard to do in conventional coding. Like if you were writing Java code or Node.js code or whatever it is to try and achieve that type of outcome, you can do some basic bad, upset kind of keyword matching, but actually to get a proper view of that sentiment that's flowing into this new Salesforce case, a large language model finds that very easily. Like it understands human tone and can tell the difference. So by calling out to an AI model, then you're able to kind of get that yes, no, is it angry or sad or happy or whatever, and then actually use that to take different action. So do something different on the basis of what the AI model has assessed about your kind of flow of incoming data. So in this case, send it to Slack because it's a higher priority response versus something that's a kind of lower priority, respond when we get there. And this sentiment analysis example is only one of the things that large language models are good at. So some other examples down towards the bottom, what's called classification. Like can you work out from the incoming email which department should be the kind of direct target for it, or the correct target for it? Or there's a thing called named entity recognition. Like given a document of some form, can you extract things from it, like the name and the email address, where there's not a kind of structured kind of format to that document necessarily in the same way as you might get with a REST request or a CSV or something. And then similarly, things like summarization, probably all seen using Teams or WebEx or various of the online meeting tools now have this ability to not only do transcription of what I'm saying as I'm saying it, but also afterwards, many of them now have this ability to do give me the keynotes from this meeting and kind of then send that onwards as well. So these are all examples where calling out to an AI model is able to deliver some functionality which is really hard to achieve with conventional coding, but actually really easy for AI models. And the focus here is you can inject that as part of your flow, and therefore achieve some more powerful business scenarios in terms of your kind of integration flow. Okay, so switching tacks, looking at the kind of bottom half of the circle that I showed initially. So what I'll talk about for the majority of the conversation is about how AI empowers integration, I should say. So this is what you might traditionally have been expecting. Like this is how IBM is developing lots of different AI features within our various offerings in order to bring you benefits as the user. So these are, as you can see here, like product features that give you powerful outcomes that are powered by AI. In many cases, as you see, it might not be super obvious that actually it's AI under the covers, because the thing that we're delivering to you is the functional benefit, the business outcome. Actually, the way it's implemented, if we could implement it with a bunch of conventional coding, probably you'd be happy with that as well, because it's kind of all about what can I do now that I couldn't do previously. However, it happens that AI is great for solving certain types of problems that is difficult, as we've been saying, for conventional coders. And one thing I kind of want to mention is obviously generative AI, all the rage at the moment. It's getting a lot of the headspace. So generative meaning creation of stuff, like AI that can kind of create me a new flow or write me a document or whatever it is. That all those sorts of things very, very popular and the focus at the moment. But actually, there are lots of different types of AI, not all of which are generative. So assistive or proactive or predictive as well. The can you help me do something, point me in the right direction, or recommend something to me before this issue happens, all those sorts of things are also really powerful scenarios for AI in the context of integration. So I'm kind of putting a personal pet peeve out there that yes, generative AI is fantastic. Also be aware that there are lots of other scenarios where AI can help you to be more successful as a user. And you'll see one of the things that I'll talk about is around kind of how do we present AI assistants in different contexts that help the user to be more effective in achieving their goals. So key thing, as I kind of alluded to a couple of slides back, is actually what we're doing in the integration space is to apply AI in the context of the products. So our goal there is to help you deliver faster, enable you to accelerate your project timelines, to automate more things, to do things more successfully that perhaps you might not have had the skills to do before. That helps to enable innovation. So how can we help both business and IT users to be innovative, to drive new and exciting scenarios? The key thing, certainly in the integration domain, is actually that we do that, we do the hard work under the covers so that you as a user don't need to have any AI skills. Like our typical integration users, of which you're part, clearly, but by virtue of coming to this session, are not typically data scientists or AI experts. Like, you don't know about machine learning or all those sorts of things necessarily, and you shouldn't have to. Right? The work that our teams do in the IBM engineering team is all about how do we package it and kind of apply that AI and then simplify the consumption of it so that it's easy for you to make use of it as part of your daily role. And one aspect of that is actually back to this kind of idea about being applicable across the whole of the user spectrum. So in the integration space, lots of different roles. We traditionally kind of have integration experts who are the ones doing the development. The operations and SRE team kind of run it on a production basis. But then over the last 5, 10, 15 years, there's been more, for example, around app and API developers who kind of maybe are not integration experts. They want to do integration or do API exposure as part of a kind of broader project they're doing. And then kind of on the left-hand end of the spectrum, the business technologist, who perhaps again is not a day-to-day coder even necessarily, but they do have that need for doing integration scenarios. They want to rapidly assemble connections between different systems, perhaps simpler than what the integration expert might do on a kind of custom coding basis. But actually the business technologist and the kind of left-hand side of the picture here is one of those areas where AI can really help, because it's all about simplifying and making things easier for particular populations of users. So you'll see some of the features that I'll talk about are how we can help those less skilled or less experienced users perhaps to achieve the successful outcomes. So this is our kind of great chart of all the exciting AI features that we have across the integration portfolio today. I will try and cover all of them at some level, and there's a few that I'm going to deep dive into as we go through, give some demo videos and so forth to make it even more real. A key thing to take away from this chart is that the way it's grouped into columns. So you can see on the left-hand side this idea of kind of simplified development. So the developer phase of integration in the various forms is actually really important, and that's one of the areas where we've focused a number, the largest number, as you can see, of our AI-led features into how can we help that developer, in the loosest sense of the word, to be more successful. But as with the previous chart, it's not just about a kind of pigeonholed persona or use case. In this case, it's all across the life cycle of integration as well. So in the middle column, features in here, we'll talk about the acceleration of testing. How can we make it faster and more effective to build higher quality APIs, for example, in this particular set of use cases. And then on the right-hand side, looking at how can we help you as a user to move through and apply AI in production. So not just in development and test, but even all the way through into kind of live service exposition. There are cases where AI can be really helpful to protect your data, to make you more secure, to give you better visibility of the things that are happening within your enterprise. So I'm going to dive into each of those in a little bit of detail as we go through. First up, I'm going to go for the AI Gateway, which is an exciting feature that we've released over the last, I guess, year or so, evolving on a rapid basis as part of our API Connect API management offering. And the kind of business scenario here is all around developers and applications having access to AI services. So I imagine in your enterprise, much like in IBM, lots of developers are very excited about AI. They're all kind of enthusiastic and either off their own backs or being told to kind of learn or kind of see how we can apply AI into these various application domains. And what that tends to lead to is lots of ad hoc, very sporadic. I'm a developer, I've gone out to What's Next or to OpenAI or whatever the services are. I've created myself a free trial account, done some experimentation, which is great to foster innovation. Is kind of a headache for central IT and the enterprise as a whole to understand both how AI is being used in the enterprise, where it's being used, and what sort of data it's being used with. So there are lots of concerns around Am I sending my business sensitive data to an AI model that's hosted in the cloud, for example? How much am I using? Am I paying too much for my AI? Am I using the right sorts of models? Are there concerns about the data that those models have been trained on? All these sorts of questions are swirling around in the enterprise IT is kind of domain at the moment. So the focus of IBM's AI Gateway is to help bring centralized management and control to your teams, your applications, your developers' use of AI models. So you can see here in the picture, AI Gateway sits in the middle, acts as that central point of enforcement for requests coming through from your applications to the AI models, logically on the right-hand side of the picture. And there's a range of benefits that brings. So firstly, if you think about each of the individual developers, originally may have had their own kind of their own personal subscription, as it were. The AI Gateway enables you to have a single centrally managed subscription to the AI provider. So one contract, one understanding of your relationship with whoever's kind of running outside. Part of the benefit of which is to help you consolidate your buying power. So AI models typically charged on a token basis, like how big are the requests you're sending in or data you're getting back again. And because of that kind of payment model, you have to pay for the service. The more you can consolidate and bring together your various uses of those models, the more opportunity there is to get like a bulk buying discount, bulk buying discount in order to make it more effective commercially for you as a company. So moving on from that, on the more technical side, looking at analytics and monitoring to manage usage. So AI Gateway, think of it as a specialization of an API gateway for the context of AI, is bringing with it both the kind of standard analytics and monitoring that comes with API management, but also in the case of our IBM AI Gateway offering, is about kind of extending that to be specific to the AI use cases. An example of which being rate limiting. So I'll talk in some more detail on the following slide, but that there are specific kind of customizations and approaches for AI that mean doing different things in an AI gateway scenario compared to a kind of traditional REST request. So pushing into a bit more detail on the AI Gateway. So of the things that we offer as part of this new feature of API Connect, self-service discovery and registration is very important. So think of this as an internally facing developer portal accessed by your application developers running inside your enterprise. You can see which AI providers and models have been approved for use by me as an enterprise. So rather than the developer having to hunt around and ask their friends, which models am I allowed to use, or which models should I use? This central kind of developer portal mechanism gives you a way to present that in a very straightforward fashion, and also to do that self-service sign up as well, if you'd like to offer that, so that they can simplify getting access and avoid any friction points to encourage them to use this kind of centrally managed mechanism. And then on the kind of rate limiting side, so we've implemented specialized rate limiting based on what's referred to as AI tokens. So as I kind of hinted, AI models are all about sending in a question or a document or something and then getting back a response of some form. And the cost, the financial cost that you pay for those access to those models is based on that number of tokens. Think of it as roughly equivalent to the number of words in your question. So if I send in a question that says, write me a 10-page history of Guatemala, very small question, very large answer. Conversely, if I send in a Word document or a big chunk of text and say, summarize this into 2 sentences, very large input, very large output, or very small output. So the total cost is about the number of tokens in and out. And with REST APIs, rate limiting is typically done on a kind of number of requests per time interval basis. So 100 requests per minute or per hour or something, because that's the kind of logical approximation of usage that makes sense in most REST scenarios. In the AI Gateway case, where we're accessing AI models, that's not the thing which is costing you the kind of resources. Therefore, we've introduced this additional ability to have rate limiting based on the number of tokens. So you can give a particular slice of tokens to each application, and then know that they're not able to go over the top of that bound. You can protect against cost overruns, or make sure that you're kind of fairly distributing the purchasing that you've done of the AI model. Then on the analytics side, so out-of-the-box dashboards alongside, as we'll see in the demo video, alongside what we already provide. focusing here on providing both at the organizational level, like your whole enterprise, and also breaking down on a department basis or an application basis, who's using the AI models, which models they're using, how frequently are they using it, all those sorts of things. So I will go for the nothing up my sleeve approach and show you a kind of demo walkthrough of our AI gateway in action. So this is API Connect, and we're going to deploy the AI gateway in exactly the same way as we would any other API. So you can see here there's a new option called the AI gateway under OpenAPI 3. And when I click on this, I'm going to first of all choose which AI platform I want to connect to. So here we're showing What's Next and OpenAI. I've actually added Google Gemini since I cut this video, so that's a third option that we have in place for AI providers. And when you pick one, so I've picked What's Next AI at this point, some configuration attributes, I give it a name, call it What's Next AI. I've got a basic version, and then there's some kind of specific, in this case, authentication that I have to configure. So I'll set that as a property just to pass that through to the authentication. And then I'm picking, in this case, kind of cloud regions for What's Next AI. There's a technical thing called the operation version that I can leave as the default. And then I also have to provide a project ID, which is part of the What's Next AI configuration. Here's my random project ID that I generated previously in What's Next AI. I've got response caching built in, and here in the kind of bottom piece, you can see where I have these various rate limit options. So I can choose to select either one or both of the REST style rate limiting and or the AI token-based rate limiting. So you can see in this case, I'm just going to turn off the REST style rate limiting and go for the token-based rate limiting, set a limit of 200 requests, 200 tokens per 2 minutes that I'm going to give out to my applications. And then I'm going to go through, finish off the kind of creation of this API. The AI gateway kind of mirrors the external contract of your AI provider. So What's Next AI in this case. And when I publish it, I'm publishing it as a product. If you're familiar with API Connect, this will be exactly the same as you would do with your own APIs. I'm going to publish it into the sandbox for the benefit of the demo. Some things about visibility and subscribability here for regular stuff. And then you can see, yes, it's been published into my catalog. I'm going to flick over, can see that exists there. So that's deployed and made the AI gateway available to my application developers effectively. So if I now kind of switch gears and imagine I'm one of those application developers, I'm going to go to the consumer catalog, the lightweight portal. I'm going to sign in as an application developer. So here's me failing to get my password right the first time. I'm going to type in my password, log in, and then this is where I can see, in this case, it's just that one, What's Next to AI, but I can see the things that I've been approved to access. And I've created ahead of time a delivery scheduler application to represent my application scenario. If I take the client ID from that application, that registered application, paste it into my application runtime, simulating here with an HTTP IE environment. Here's where you can see the request that my application makes is the same structure broadly as if I was doing it directly against What's Next to AI. So I'm still saying which model ID I want and which question, but it's actually going through the AI gateway, as you can see in the host name. And then the response here comes back. This is the text I've been generated. And the bottom right hand side, you can see that this took around 2.5 seconds to invoke. Actually, if I run the same request again fairly shortly afterwards, you see it responded much more quickly. And that's because we've built in AI response caching into the gateway as well. So if your use case is such that your kind of application pattern asks the same question regularly with the same kind of text, as it were, then you'll get the benefit of saving time and also commercial cost from not having to call out to the back-end AI model all the time. And then if I switch over onto the analytics side, so back on the provider side, you can see the AI usage dashboard is here alongside all the standard REST dashboards that we do. So the AI token count, kind of number of organizations making calls, you get this kind of high level view of how AI is being used in my enterprise. The graph here is showing over time, so over the last month or two, whenever it is. This is where my usage is, again, broken down by request and response. So I can get that aggregate view across all of my AI usage in the enterprise. And then the heat map here is taking that a step further and saying, on a per day basis in each time interval, help me to understand when the AI's calls are being used. So this is something we brought across from the REST style invocations. You can see that this particular application gets very hot in the kind of mid-afternoon time frame. and then quietens off in the afternoon as well. So I get some traffic pattern analysis as part of this. And then looking on the detailed usage, this first row, these first two graphs are looking at what we refer to as consumer organizations in API Connect. So departments, for example, the HR team and the payroll team and the logistics team, I can get to see how many requests they're making and what the proportion is of each thing. And then the second row is breaking that down by applications. So if HR had multiple applications, then I could see within that which kind of application is driving the most usage. And then kind of interesting specific part for AI here is looking at which models are being used. So the gateway is that kind of interface point to the models. So we can see, am I requests using Google's Flan or IBM's Granite or Meta's Llama models? You can see over time which of the models are actually making most use of in my applications. And then on the right hand side, the kind of cache hits, this is showing, say, if your application pattern is that style of consistent repeated requests, then you'll be able to kind of see the value that you're getting here from those cached responses, because it's saving you time and kind of cost for not having to call out to the backend AI provider each time. And then a bit further down, get a bit more technical in kind of aspects. So this is all about response times. AI responses are often very slow, so up to 8 seconds here, and you can see at the bottom the kind of 0 seconds, broadly speaking. That's obviously where it's being responded to from the cache. So you can get a kind of performance profile of what the percentiles are for your response times. And then similarly, the bottom kind of set here are looking at token count response percentiles and request percentiles on the left. So am I sending in lots of big requests and am I getting back lots of data? What's my pattern of usage for this particular AI provider? Okay, so that was the kind of demo walkthrough for AI Gateway. So to summarize, the AI Gateway is all about helping you to secure, manage, and socialize use of AI models. So it applies to these 3 AI providers that I've listed at the moment. So What's Next AI, OpenAI, and Google Gemini. And we have a number of other ones on the list. We regularly hear from customers who are using other additional things, so that watch out for more there. Important point also to mention, I was actually just responding to an email just before this call about which form factors of API Connect that this is available in. So originally, this time last year, we released it in SaaS as a first step. Subsequently, I think at the end of last year, and we've now made it available as part of API Connect self-managed software deployments. So if you're deploying APIC in virtual machines or in Kubernetes or OpenShift yourself, then the AI Gateway is also now available for you to use as part of those deployments as well. Okay, next one, API Assistant. So this again is an API Connect, and it's following up on a theme of this kind of confluence of AI and APIs, this kind of virtuous circle again, in terms of the world of AI and the world of APIs are closely related in many cases. So at the top here saying, well, actually APIs enable the creation of AI generated applications. So lots of talk in the application domain space about can AI build application code for me? Yes, it can in some cases, and the way it's successful in doing that is to be able to call out to backend services, which are typically presented via APIs. And then the bottom piece of the picture here is how is AI then empowering people to build more APIs or build more effective APIs? So that's the kind of, how do I help people to create their own APIs in each of these kind of different kind of levels of API style conversation? This is something that is an industry trend. So there's a Gartner hype cycle for APIs you may have seen kind of highlighted here. There's a number of AI related things. So AI gateways that I just spoke about is a key one. Consumption of APIs by generative AI, that was going back to the previous points, and also Gen AI driven API generation. So there's various different aspects where AI is observed at the industry scope, and also that IBM is helping to kind of define those market segments in order to kind of help you as users progress and be more successful. Lots of people using code assistants. You can see some statistics here about people using AI code assistants now, 90% by 2028. That's typically for supporting the developer, as I was saying earlier, and also some big gains in developer productivity that are expected to come from those sorts of AI code assistants. So skip over this one in the interest of time. Specifically, So what we've done in API Connect again is to bring this API assistant, so powered by AI, applied specifically to the domain of APIs. So our first steps here are around how do we help users to build better quality API interfaces effectively. So in this case, the feature we've added is to help solve problems that human users really don't like writing documentation. It's kind of boring, it's kind of time consuming. I as a developer, I'm not super keen on that, but now you have to do some of it. In this case, we can actually have AI generate both descriptions, so documentation for your API, and also examples as well. So in this case, it's kind of top level description of what the API does that the API assistant has been able to generate by looking at the whole of the API spec, understanding what's in it, and then recommending what it thinks that particular description should be of the API. And similarly, like providing examples is really important to consumers of that API to understand what they should put in or what they should get back again. AI is also able to recommend that. That's another area. So we provide the recommendations, and then the user gets to either accept or decline that recommendation. So there's always a human in the loop, but they get to save time by giving their approval rather than having to write lots of stuff from scratch effectively. And then the second piece that we've added on the API assistant is around helping you as a developer fix errors as well. So API specifications can be quite challenging. It's not uncommon to have bugs in them, and the API assistant here is detecting those bugs, understanding that they exist, and also recommending how to fix them. So again, over here you can say, well, yes, I'd like to apply all of these, or I'm going to ignore what you suggested on this one. I'm happy I know how to do that one myself. But that's saving time with the AI understanding how to fix the bugs that may exist in your API specification. Slightly different area, so moving away from APIs, API management at least, into the event automation space. So this is IBM's offering, so event streams, event endpoint management, event processing. In this case, what we're using, or we've provided is the ability to call out to AI to do some of those things that I was describing in the first 10 minutes or so, that AI is really good at, large language models are really good at, but conventional coding is not. Very difficult to do in certain scenarios. So I'm going to dive straight into the demo here to make this real, as it were. You'll see our kind of nodes to call out to AI and then kind of answer questions and make changes to that stream of events as it goes through the system. So in this case, it's a weather reporting scenario. I'm going to get kind of raw data from the weather stations that comes in every 2 minutes or so. So you can see here some kind of example raw data numbers about wind speed and humidity and temperature and all that kind of good stuff. And what we want to do is to kind of bring that up to aggregates for the hour. So I can combine together the 2-minutely reports. That's something that event processing is really good at. So now you get not just point in times, but min, max, averages, standard deviations, aggregating using the event processing capability over that period of time. But actually what I want to do is turn all that technical data into something that a human being can understand. So here I have a kind of call out or a prompt definition for what's next to AI. You can see it says, generate a short, non-technical, easy to understand explanation of these weather measurements for this 1 hour period. So I've prepared my prompt in the first node. It'll then call out to what's next as part of that second call, and then give me the results back again. So the net result here, as you can see, is text like, during the 1 hour period between 12 and 1 o'clock, this is the weather that happened. So that conversion from lots of technical data into something that's human readable, very difficult to do with conventional coding, very, very simple to do with a large language model. So illustrating the power of integrating use of AI models into, in this case, an event processing flow. So then looking again, different domains, so we'll go into the application integration space. I'm going to talk about 3 of the features that we have in IBM App Connect. Mapping Assist, Data Assist, and the relatively recent Gen AI Connector Builder. So Mapping Assist is all about how do I simplify the most time-consuming activity in application integration. So app integration cases are, I have a source system, in this case NetSuite, for example, or Salesforce. I have a target system, is NetSuite. How do I map between them? So you've got hundreds of fields, on tens of hundreds of fields on the source, tens of hundreds of fields on the target. They don't match up directly necessarily, and the key thing the developer has to do is kind of traditionally is manually wire one from the other, work out which field corresponds to which one, how am I going to convert things across. And Mapping Assist is there to provide AI to do that recommendation. So you can see here it kind of says, well, I've got a very strong feeling and very strong confidence that this is the correct mapping for this particular field. I have a somewhat less strong feeling about this one. And then the outcome is that you can save about 50% of the time that it takes to build that integration flow by having AI do the recommendation, and then the user gives the thumbs up, thumbs down, like, do I agree with this or not, in order to kind of push that through. A great thing about this particular capability in App Connect is it also learns from your experience. So if you have your enterprise has a kind of custom coding, custom mapping that they do on a regular basis, then actually the model will learn over time and will start to recommend that to you the next time that you come in, so that you can save time and not have to kind of do as much manual work. Data Assist, fairly simple, or fairly similar rather. So this is all about how do I build simple functions. So think about, I've got a bunch of source fields, I want to convert them in some way. I'll show the demo for this in a second. But yeah, how do I convert those? And rather than needing to be an expert and write the JSON arter expression, the function call myself, if I can do that with examples, as you'll see in the demo, that makes that a lot simpler and easier to do as well. So I will launch into kind of overview on this one. So here we'll look at Mapping Assist first. So in this case, I'm going to create a leads operation. So post a lead, I want to implement the flow. It has some kind of entry fields that are going to be sent in on the REST request that is the trigger, and I want to send this off to Salesforce. So I want to have a create lead operation as part of Salesforce, and here you can see all those tens or hundreds of fields that exist in Salesforce. Some of them have no enums to them and so forth, and the AI here is suggesting what those mappings are. So some of this is kind of plain text matching. Other pieces like city and town, like semantic style. So it understands and it knows what the right sorts of mappings are in order to get you running quickly. And then looking at Data Assist, the second of those functions. So if I said actually I want the description to be some function, some changed version of what the badge name is. So here I can generate a transformation. So in this case, I'm going to give 5 before and after examples. So Mr. Andy Garrett, one of my colleagues who recorded this demo. This is Peggy, is it? Yeah, Peggy Whitson, famous figures from IT and science. And you can see that the after examples are capitalization, taking the first initial, putting a comma in there. So the examples we're giving here are all very kind of declarative, and you can see actually the function that gets generated is actually quite complex because you're doing a bunch of different operations, but it's much easier for the developer to give the examples and have the system work out what the function is, rather than the developer having to write that code from scratch as such. And then looking at the Gen AI connector builder, this is relatively new. It's an experimental feature that we have at the moment in our connector development kit. So in this case, the CDK connector development kit is all around helping you as a user of App Connect be successful in integrating with your own applications. So we as IBM present lots of different connectors, out of the box things for Salesforce and SAP and all different packaged applications. But if you have either your own application or one that we don't yet have a connector for, the CDK is there to help you build your own connections. And typically that would be done starting from an open API specification, like a technical interface of your API that fronts your application. But what we found is often users don't have that open API specification. Instead, they'll have a wiki page or a docs page that describes what those things are, maybe lists out the operations, gives you some examples like a curl command or something. But actually that you don't have that as an open API spec as such. So this Gen AI connector builder, the AI is actually, you point it at your documentation, and it will then generate the connector for you. So saving you time and effort to having kind of manually build this open API specification, and it's generating it using AI from the human readable documentation. So that again is a big time saver. Simplifies the creation of your own custom connectors for application endpoints that you have within your enterprise. Moving on, kind of looking onto the kind of acceleration of testing. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about these few things. This first one is about kind of smart generation of tests. So testing, very time-consuming activity. Lots of it is actually quite manual and repetitive, should we say. Very common for there to be kind of boilerplates, a whole bunch of setup, a whole bunch of tear down, and actually the thing you want to be able to get to is the one piece in the middle that says, does this function do what I thought it should, this particular business function as such. And this smart generation feature is there to basically take the boilerplate pieces and do that for you. So you give it your open API specification, your API contract, and it will understand the semantics and the kind of contract specifics of that API, and use that to build up all the kind of setup and tear down logic, leaving you to fill in the kind of piece in the middle that actually you really care about. So that's really successful in kind of enabling you to build more API test cases more quickly. As you can see, it's something like a third of the time it takes of actually building this by hand to generate using the smart generation, the AI powered test creation capability. And the second testing feature that we have in API Connect is called Auto Test Assist. So this one is looking at a slightly different profile of testing. So the first one was help me to build more manual test cases by automating the boring parts. This one is actually saying there are certain types of testing, think of it as kind of fuzz testing, as it were, which is impractical for human users to do. So as a human tester, as a QA person, you would write, tens, maybe 50 test cases that are kind of structured and kind of manual, that you want to go through on a regular basis, that you've automated that process for. But you wouldn't really have the time or the effort to go and really try every single possible combination against every single endpoint. So Auto Test Assist is that kind of edge probing. So the AI will automatically generate many hundreds or thousands of test cases against your API endpoints. And the idea is you're able to then look at those randomly generating test cases and see, well, is this, like, if it generated a 400 error or a 500 error, have I actually found a bug in the back end by virtue of me sending unexpected style data? Like, can I fix that bug, or is the issue because the API specification that I have maybe is not well described? Like, my input field says it's a string, but actually it's meant to be a string of length 2, which is a country code, for example. So some of the things that you kind of flush out with this sort of randomized testing are either improvements in the contract, so strengthening the contract so it's better quality and more easily understandable, or also issues or errors potentially in the back-end implementation services. So this one is automatically generating thousands of API calls in order that you can do things that is not really feasible for human beings to achieve.
So,
and then,
so Matt,
yep.
just before you go on, yeah, so there's two questions. I just want to catch them so we don't lose them. One was around AI Gateway on the caching specifically. What's being used as the cache key?
Yes, so caching in the AI Gateway, so it's using the request that's coming in to the AI Gateway. So it's things like the particular model, a particular question, the parameters that go into that model. So it's a subset of the request that goes in to determine that cache key, so that you know that if you make that same request, then you get back the same answer. That there are things that we're potentially looking at for the future around kind of semantic understanding of whether one request is similar to another one. But at the moment, it's that kind of text-based caching based on the kind of question that comes into the AI Gateway input.
Okay, and then a follow-up to that was that how often is the cache refreshed, or how often is it held?
Yes, yeah. So we have a default setting. I'm going to I think it's about 5 minutes by default. You can actually configure that as part of the creation of your API your AI Gateway instance. So depending on what your kind of interests are, obviously there's a trade-off from a performance and an overhead perspective as to how long you cache responses for versus how frequently you might want to go out and get the latest from the model. So there's some trade-offs to consider there, but yes, you have control over that cache duration as well.
Okay, and then the last question was around which version of CP4I or ACE the mapping assist is part of.
Okay, yeah. So mapping assist, data assist, so they exist both in the ACE SaaS service, ACE as a service, and in the self-managed case in CP4I and ACE containers. We've recently actually introduced different conversation here. So they exist in ACE containers. So any version of ACE that exists either standalone or in containers or in CP4I, at least over the last 18 months or more. So if you're on an in-support version, should have those things in place already. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Yep.
That's it for right now. Thanks, Matt.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think we've got one more topic to cover on, and then we can have some time for free-form questions as well. So this last piece is around what we refer to as a no-name advanced security with API Connect. So no name is a third party. They've actually relatively recently been acquired by Akamai, so you might see them referred to as Akamai as well. And the use case here is kind of partnering up with data to and from API Connect in order to deliver more advanced security outcomes, as it says in the title. So an example being here, if you think about an API gateway, API Connect and Data Power being one of those, if you come into that API gateway with valid credentials, with a valid client ID and secret or valid API key, the gateway says, yeah, we're all good here. You've provided me valid authentication mechanism. Therefore, you can carry on. We'll let your request through. You'll get back the data you asked for. But actually, that type of kind of point in time authentication check or authorization check is only one level of security, shall we say. There are more advanced cases. A good one that I like to talk about is imagine that my application, it's a bank balance checking application, runs on my mobile phone. The typical pattern is people log into that once or twice a day, maybe. They get back the latest 10 records from their bank account in order to kind of understand what their most recent transactions were. So if that represents kind of normal patterns of traffic, if subsequently you find that same application is coming in 100 times an hour and is asking for 1 million transactions or your entire banking history, for example, they might still, if they're coming in with valid credentials, the API gateway says, yep, we're all good here. But actually what no name does is to say, I've detected a suspicious pattern in traffic, if you like. There's a change in behavior for how this API is being used. So that machine learning model under the covers is doing analysis of how or where or why that API is being used, and using that to flag to the administrator, to the SecOps people, for example, here's a risk. Like, you should go and look at this and decide whether is it possible that the credentials for that application have been obtained, they've been cracked and obtained by a malicious actor who's now trying to siphon data off. So there are various cases, that being one good example, but a whole bunch of other ones as well, where actually the integration between API Connect and No Name, now part of Akamai, it is great for providing that more advanced API style security scenarios, driven under the covers, as I say, by machine learning and by AI. Okay, so 10 minutes or so, good. A little bit of time for questions. So to summarize before we dive into any remaining questions, AI is certainly the hot topic in the industry today. The focus is around how does AI help us to enable time savings or achieve more powerful outcomes through that application of AI. And I talked about the two different themes that we have in the perspective of IBM's AI and integration. The first of which is, how does integration enable your AI projects? So if you're building your own custom AI project, what are the integration things that you need to do in order to get the right data, kind of integration as part of the system, or to train a new AI model, or to provide the hook points that you can actually call out to AI. So that was the first theme. And then the second part, majority of the conversation, we've been looking at this kind of big table of AI-led features that we have in the integration portfolio that are all about providing powerful, easy-to-use solutions that save time and effort for you as the user. So as I described at the beginning, in all the cases, you're not expected to be a data scientist. In some cases, you won't even know it's AI under the covers. But things like Mapping Assist or Data Assist or the API Assistant, they're all about simplifying that experience, enabling you to achieve more with less, more quickly. Happens to be powered by AI under the covers, but gives you that powerful outcome that you're looking for. So with that, I think I will pause. Certainly, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I'm very happy if there are other questions that come up in the chat, Frank, we can do some more.
Yeah, so there's a question around No Name. How does API Connect integrate with No Name? Is it through the gateway logs or API analytics? And then I have a follow-up on No Name as well. That, most companies at this stage are using multiple API gateways. And so, as you can imagine, that means that security-wise and even usage-wise, companies don't really understand how their APIs are being managed, what's going on. How does No Name help with that as well? So first one, API Connect, how does it integrate? The second one, what do you do when you've got multiple gateways?
Okay, yeah. So the integration between API Connect and No Name actually goes in both directions. So there is for example, it does use the API analytics. So the records of which APIs have been invoked get sent to the No Name server, which can run either on premise or in the cloud, depending on what your preference is. So that kind of emission of analytics data is how that detection starts. And then the kind of converse to that is if you detect, or if No Name detects a particular situation, like the one that I was describing, there is either the option to kind of flag, like human user, come and look at this, like a kind of PagerDuty or support ticket or something. There is also the option to integrate back to API Connect, and if you were sufficiently confident or sufficiently security cautious, then you could automate the action to, for example, disable that application, like in the scenario that I was talking about, so that it's a very, very short loop. You kind of lock it down immediately as soon as it happens. Some customers choose to do that, and some customers choose to, again, have that human in the loop to make the determination, and then they can kind of click the button that says, actually, yes, I as the human now say you should go and block that application, or deauthorize that. So yeah, that certainly is an important part of it. To your question about lots of different gateways, so certainly No Name has integration not just with API Connect, but with a range of other gateway vendors as well. So it can be your kind of single platform for all those sorts of advanced things. The other aspect of interest is in that kind of, how do I get visibility of all my different gateways? There are capabilities in the API control plane that has come into IBM, for example, as part of Web Methods, that we're now broadening out to other API Connect users. That does actually let you have some visibility of all the different gateways. So being able to see your third-party gateways, your non-IBM gateways, alongside the things that come from IBM as well. That's another useful aspect in terms of understanding your API estate, whether it's running on all IBM technology or other vendors as well.
Yeah, good. Let's see. Don't see any other questions right now. Just one question though. Yeah, where do you see AI heading next in integration? For example, one of the things that I would think about is documentation generation, or even from different perspectives: developers' perspective, architects' perspective, business users' perspective, admin, DevOps, sysadmin perspective. Where do you see AI heading just overall for integration?
Yeah, so I think there's, as you say, there's a range of different aspects where this is exciting, like is interesting. There's more we can do. Certainly, I was talking about the API assistant in API Connect. Like there are some, help me write documentation, help me fix errors. Those are the initial things we've been looking at. What we'd like to do, like the intention, is that we'll broaden that across the whole of the API lifecycle. So implementation, more testing, like securing, socializing, that whole set of things that you can do in the API lifecycle. Each of those has some level of activity that's interesting for broadening out AI assistance in the context of APIs. I think another area where we're obviously looking to do more is in the kind of context of IPaaS, integration platform as a service, that brings together all the different integration technologies. There's a whole bunch of things that I can't talk publicly about yet, but the team are working on, and we'll be able to share maybe in either a month or 3 months' time, for example, where we want to do more in those sorts of areas to provide support and assistance and kind of guidance to users, not just in the API space, but more broadly across that kind of IPaaS context as well.
Okay, very good. And just a reminder for everyone, the office hours are later on today for live questions, so you don't have to just put it in the chat. You can actually speak to all the speakers from today in the session. From everyone from the integration track will be on that. There's a poll live right now, so if you want to give some feedback. Otherwise, remember, Tech Community for interactions with all the speakers, for blogs, for tips, for basically the community. And that's what we have. So we've got 2 minutes left. If anyone has any more questions right now, please let us know. Otherwise, we're going to start wrapping up. Thanks very much, Matt. It's very, very interesting. And it's great to actually see something real, to see, as opposed to, you know, we're going to see data centers greater than or bigger than the Great Wall of China. It's great to see something that's actually usable right now. And we can see how this is going to continue to improve. And, you know, I'm curious to see, I saw the figure there was like 36% improvement, I think, in productivity for developers. I'm curious to see how we're going to keep tracking that, or how companies themselves are going to tracking overall usage of AI in their companies, not just and overall productivity gains or efficiency gains that they're going to see. So it's good to have something practical that you can actually say, yep, we're using this, and you can start using it right now with App Connect.
Yep, absolutely.
With API Connect. Yep. Okay, thanks everybody. This is the end of today's session on integration and AI. Come back soon for the next session, which will be starting in about 5 minutes. Thanks all.
Thank you, folks.